welcome back to the class, everyone. We finally have Galactic Legend Leia's kit, and while it does look really good, it might be one of the most nuanced kits we've ever had. So that being said, the whole point really of today's video is going to be talking about how we can prepare, not just resource-wise, but a little bit mentally in regards to how we are going to use her, because there are a lot of things in her kit that really aren't going to make sense until we end up seeing it in action. So what this video isn't going to try to be is one where we just read off every single ability. I'm going to point out a few key things, most of which are going to have to do with her unique and are going to have to do with how she interacts with mastery, because the way that she does might be the most broken interaction with it we have seen in a Galactic Legend or in general so far in our game. So I do want to point out a few things before we get to that kind of ultimate thing. She, I think, has the best basic ability in the entire game, while it does give everyone a retribution, so you're going to have a similar effect that CLS has with his team, with everyone countering. You're also going to have stupid good abilities, all depending on what the enemy's role is. And by the way, Leia is kind of ushering in this new time where everyone's role matters a lot, both on the enemy side and on the ally side. And again, we're not going to spend too much time on this, but if it's a tank, she gets a masked call to assist, as well as a 25% health reduction. Those are both really good. Like, this is an amazing special ability for pretty much any character. If it's a healer or support, dispel all debuffs on rebel allies, equalize Leia's health protection with the weakest other ally rebel, and then recover 20% health and protection. Dispelling all debuffs on all rebel allies. Again, this is a really good special ability in general. And dispelling all buffs on target enemy, and then just continually reducing their speed. Her whole basic ability just reads like it's a ton of super good specials. Her next special, or first special, I really wasn't super impressed by. She's going to get to do some fun things with reducing speed and ambush, and that's probably going to be very good. Again, don't want to spend too much time on a lot of these. Her other special as well, this is a little bit relevant because she, similar to the First Order fleet, is going to be able to remove turn meter from a target other ally, meaning that she is going to be able to kind of hinder someone on her team to be able to leverage her own abilities against her enemy one. And then on top of that, she is going to be able to give everyone call to action for 4 turns, which is going to end up doing a lot of other good things. One thing that I think will be kind of cool about this, if you ever use her against a JMK team, she actually won't be allowed to remove the turn meter, but then, so that could be kind of good depending on how you're wanting to use it. But really, you do want to be able to deal bonus plus bonus true damage increased by 1% per turn meter. This is kind of nice because you can just kind of have one useless character on her team, and if you keep doing this and you end up doing damage based off of that, that can be nice. Then again, you get all these nice effects based on each enemy's role, which can't be resisted. Now, where I do want to spend a lot of time is going to be on this ability. Not only does R2 get a huge buff here, at the start of the battle, R2-D2 gains 75% health, max protection, offense, and potency, which are, by the way, not at all on accident all the stats that he really stinking wants to be able to share with the rest of the team via his number crunch. Now, I've talked about this before, where he gains 10% max protection, max offense, max health, and potency for each other ally of the specific faction. I've talked about for a long time, this is aged poorly, not because the ability is bad, but just because we've gotten characters who stat share way better, or not even stat share, but give stat increases. Like, we look at Commander Ahsoka Tano, who is one of the more recent ones. She doesn't stat share, but she does give 50% increases for some key stats out there, whereas R2 just himself gets to send 10. Now, on top of that, you're getting all those huge chunks to these abilities, and then he's being able to share 10% out of it back to the rest of the team, of which Galactic Legend Leia and everyone else will really be able to get to take in. That being said, that is not even the best part of the ability. The next part of it comes down here. If all allies are rebels, at the start of her turn and each enemy's turn, Leia gains Fearless if she didn't already have it until she receives damage, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. So, I guess I probably read the rest of this too. Whenever an enemy turn ends while Leia has Fearless, she gains 2% max health. All enemies lose 5% mastery. That is a huge deal. We'll get to that in a second. 15% defense and tenacity until the end of the encounter, and she gains 4% ultimate charge. So basically, this is what's going to happen. The enemy is going to go, whoever it is, let's say it's Boosh on a Java team. Leia is going to proc Fearless. If Boosh can't touch and damage Leia for whatever reason, her AoE's on cooldown, she doesn't, there's someone taunting in the way. If you can't hit her to remove the Fearless, and you end your turn, the enemy turn, without her losing Fearless because you haven't hit her, all of your allies are going to be losing 5% mastery when you're fighting against Galactic Legend Leia. Losing mastery is one of the strongest abilities in the entire game. For those of you who are a little bit unaware, just not entirely sure how mastery works, if you've ever used Jedi Knight Luke against SLKR, this is one of the most, I think, obvious examples out there. SLKR's mastery reduction is not quite as easy to do as Leia's. It's actually a lot harder for several different reasons. Number one, he can only use it on a special once every like 3 turns. On top of that as well, he actually has to be able to hit the target. That they dodge, it doesn't count. And then furthermore, he needs Siphon. But it's this one right here where he will remove a percentage of the enemy's mastery. If you're, say, using the Jedi Knight Rev and Jedi Knight Luke counter to SLKR, Jedi Knight Luke will eventually just end up completely blind, not ever even able to make contact with SLKR, because his mastery is accuracy. And Jedi Knight Luke is not alone in this. There are a ton of characters that not only have accuracy, but have damage wrapped into their mastery. And this doesn't just go down to 0 when Leia is going to be lowering it like SLKR can lower it. This will eventually go negative, which means what we could end up seeing, and I can't believe they're letting this even function against Galactic Legends, we could see Galactic Legends go down to doing 1 damage to the enemy. This is a long time ago, I don't know if anyone remembers, but Lord Vader used to be able to absorb negative mastery when fighting against Kylo Ren. There were times where Lord Vader would go to use his big hits that can normally one-shot entire characters, and they would do 1 damage because of how negative mastery impacted him. And that is the same thing Leia is going to do passively every single time you can't hit her, because she's stealth, because you don't have an AoE, or because someone's taunting. So to give you guys kind of a concept of what this is going to make the team dynamic look like, it's going to look a little bit like Grievous, where B2 sits on the team, and B2 is technically a tank. He cannot taunt. Like, unless you have Watt on the team, which that's not really within his normal abilities. Watt can make any tank taunt. He's not going to be taunting, and he doesn't want to be taunting. He wants you to hit someone else. He doesn't care who it is, so that he will gain turn meter, so his cooldowns are already reduced, so that he can go and use mow down, give turn meter to the rest of his team, apply buff immunity, does a lot of really great things. But his whole point is that he's a tank that will punish you for not attacking him when you get distracted by, say, Magna Guard or General Grievous's mark. Leia is going to do the same thing, except much worse. Every time, again, that you can't reach her because someone is taunting, she is going to be decreasing the mastery across your entire team, including Galactic Legends, of which 2 have accuracy and a lot of them have offense. So I think what is ultimately going to happen is when she comes out, we're going to be building teams much like this. And this is the team that she just prescribed. They're like, you want to use, this is obviously going to be Galactic Legend Leia, not Rolo. And then you're going to want to have the 2 Jedi tanks because she gives bonus defense to them on top of whatever else they can already do. And then you're going to have R2 because she gives a lot of good stealths, or gives a lot of good stats, and on top of that, he'll be able to stealth. And then Drogon is just going to do a stupid amount of damage. We haven't even touched on that because I'm not even sure if that's going to be the goal for a lot of these battles. But that is what overall the team is going to look like. And I think offensively, this team will probably beat almost everything. There's a few issues. It depends on how smart the JML and JMK AIs are, because they're the 2 main ones that can ignore taunt, and they can go right after Leia. They have different ways of dispelling or preventing stealth, so they can get around that. They can go after Leia, kill her before everything starts to ramp, don't lose any mastery because they're constantly making contact. I think they'll do pretty well. So depending on how their AIs do, Leia might struggle against them. But against everything else, this team might just absolutely wreck, and not just offensively, but defensively. I know that CG is marketing this as an offensive comp, but if we're being honest, CG doesn't always understand how their comps work, and we end up figuring out other comps to work with it. That being said, expect Galactic Legend Leia to not look that good when she first comes out, because it is going to take a while for us to figure out which comps are relevant. Which other Galactic Legends are you setting down that you need to call us out? Because obviously she's going to have counters. Like we said, JML and JMK are going to be able to target her pretty hard because of the ignore taunt being able to go right after her. But if those are the only two things out there that work, and you can set two things out there that someone's going to drop on the front wall, she might just become completely unbeatable on a back wall situation. So there's going to be multiple ways, I think, to use her. That being said, I don't think that we should, and this is something for testers to work out once, or testers, for the people who are going to lock her day one to test, but I don't think we should completely shut out the idea of making her a defensive nightmare by ensuring that the enemy team are just making it super difficult for the enemy team to make contact with her. And I'm not saying that these are like the end-all be-all of teams, but it's worth exploring some of these. If we can keep the enemy from constantly hitting her, she doesn't lose fearless, and the enemy team just completely gets dragged down by mastery, and they just start doing, they can't do negative damage, but they'll fall down to 1 damage, or they just won't be able to hit because they have no accuracy, or they'll just start falling over because they'll lose all of their defensive stats because that was also their mastery. Then it doesn't really matter how much damage her team does if the other team just completely falls apart. So I have the two non-negotiables, I think, for this team are going to be R2 and Olben. The reasons why is Olben's taunt is actually somewhat consistent. Once you apply a Zeta, he can reapply it after it's being torn off, which is pretty cool. On top of that, he does meet the requirements of being a Jedi on her team, meaning that he will get all that added defense for the very beginning of the battle, and also be able to do some other really cool things like call in the GL to assist. R2, we talked about his huge stat share. There's also burning synergy in there that we didn't go over. But on top of that, and one of the things that I think is going to be more important, and I don't think the AI is going to get this right, but there might be a way to figure this out if we can mess with everyone's stats enough. R2 has a tendency to his AI always has a tendency to stealth whoever is healthiest, which means he's probably going to leave Leia exposed, which is going to make everything really easy for the enemy. But if we can figure out a way around that, like modding someone else to actually even be tankier than her, then this is even going to be viable on defense. But that is something that we need to take note of. That is going to be very challenging, though. Galactic Legends have really good stats, not just because of their overall makeup, but because they're going to get a unique that's going to boost it even further. So that within itself might be challenging. But then getting the rest of the team just be really consistent taunting tanks, I think, is going to be important to keep her from constantly losing fearless, and then again to go through the whole mastery interaction. But that being said, Leia kind of, in relation to other Galactic Legends, Leia kind of sucks at making her taunt or tanks taunt on her team. And in fact, she doesn't really seem to have any way to do it, which is a little bit sad because there are like a lot of the Galactic Legends out there, like Lord Vader's a great example. You dispel the taunt and they get locked to mark, or with SLKR, every single time they gain advantage, they gain taunt on top of that, and when they lose advantage and they just gain it back, they immediately get it. So there's a lot of Galactic Legends that are really good at making their stuff taunt. Leia isn't. So I think that is going to be ultimately the bigger challenge for if we're going to set Leia on defense, we have to really solve these two problems. We have to make sure that R2-D2 isn't going to smoke screen her, because that would suck. And on top of that, we're going to have to make sure whatever other two characters that are there are going to prevent you from actually getting to her. And you'll notice that these two bottom comps don't even have Drogon. I don't know if, from a defensive perspective, how much he matters. Because again, if the team can't get to Leia, they can't get the mastery, or they can't shake off any of the mastery that she's giving, I don't think her damage, or that she's decreasing, I don't think her damage even matters. If your team can't do anything, all she has to do is sit there, not take the hit, let Baze or K2 or Scarecrow or Pathfinder or whoever else take it, and she can eventually just get into her ultimate, fracture everyone on top of that. Then this just becomes the ultimate timeout team. It's going to be similar to how Jabba goes. You just get close to killing him. Team's got a ton of defense, and then all of a sudden he's back at full health and protection, because that's how pretty much how her ult works as well. So these are just some initial thoughts, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think there is going to be a lot of moving around of things here, and maybe R2 doesn't even make the cut if we can't get him not to stealth her, because that is going to actually be important. Although I guess if everyone else is taunting, then he can't actually stealth her, or stealth on top of her, everyone but her, and they'll end up still taunting. But that is going to be it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay awesome.